Our story begins on a hot summer morning in August 1945. A Japanese engineer named Tsutomu Yamaguchi was preparing for work. He had no idea that history's deadliest weapon was about to fall from the sky. Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip. He worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. His assignment was to finalize details for a new oil tanker design. After months away, he was ready to return home. On August 6, 1945, it was his last day in Hiroshima. He packed his bags for the journey back to Nagasaki. That morning, he walked through the city streets. The air was hot and heavy. The war felt endless. Japan was on the brink of collapse. But ordinary workers still went about their duties. Yamaguchi carried drawings rolled under his arm. Around 8 a.m., he made his way to the shipyard. The sky was clear. Birds wheeled lazily above the harbor. No alarms sounded. It seemed like any other day. At 8:15 a.m., the world changed forever. A US B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay dropped a single bomb. The weapon's code name was Little Boy. It carried the destructive power of 15,000 tons of TNT. Yamaguchi looked up and saw a blinding flash. The light was described as brighter than the sun. For a moment, the sky itself seemed to burn. Then came the roar. A wave of searing heat slammed through the city. The bomb detonated about 600 meters above Hiroshima. Yamaguchi was less than 2 miles from ground zero. He was thrown off his feet. His eardrums burst. The blast seared his skin. His entire body felt aflame. He staggered to his knees, stunned. Around him, Hiroshima was gone. Wooden houses had vanished. Buildings collapsed into rubble. Smoke and fire filled the streets. Yamaguchi's left ear rang endlessly. His face and arms were badly burned. His clothes were torn to shreds. He had no idea what had happened. Many survivors thought the sun itself had exploded. Some thought it was a massive gas bomb. Nobody could comprehend a nuclear blast. Yamaguchi struggled to his feet, stumbled through the ruins. The air smelled of burning wood and flesh. Everywhere, people screamed for help. Shadows of humans were imprinted onto walls. Entire families lay silent in the debris. He saw rivers filled with charred bodies. The heat had boiled the water. Yamaguchi clutched his arms, his skin peeling. Somehow, he survived the fireball. He stumbled toward the Mitsubishi shipyard. It was nearly destroyed. Yet a few colleagues had survived. Together, they found shelter in a dugout. Yamaguchi's burns were treated with oil and bandages. There was no real medicine. Doctors had been killed in the blast. Hospitals were flattened. In shock, he lay awake all night. Fires raged outside. Explosions echoed through the ruins. The city was a sea of flame. The sky glowed red through the smoke. At dawn, the survivors emerged. Hiroshima no longer existed. The heart of the city had been vaporized. Tens of thousands lay dead. More would die from burns and radiation. Yamaguchi, weak and injured, still thought of home. He had to return to Nagasaki. His wife and infant child were waiting there. Despite his wounds, he boarded a train. Thousands of refugees also fled the ruins. The train ride was silent and grim. Passengers were burned, bleeding, stunned. No one spoke of what had happened. Few had the words. Yamaguchi's skin blistered with every jolt, but he endured. After hours of travel, he reached Nagasaki. His wife wept at the sight of him. He described a terrible new weapon. No one believed it possible. His boss at Mitsubishi demanded he come to work. Even burned and deafened, duty called. Yamaguchi reported for work the next morning. He told his colleagues, "One bomb destroyed Hiroshima." They shook their heads in disbelief. Nothing could do such a thing, they said. He tried to insist, but few listened. And 3 days later, history struck again. On August 9, 1945, the morning began like any other. Tsutomu Yamaguchi woke in Nagasaki, still bandaged from Hiroshima. His skin was raw, his ears still ringing. But he put on his uniform and headed for work. His sense of duty was unshaken. Had no idea another bomb was on its way. At the Mitsubishi office, he spoke with the supervisor. He warned him. One bomb destroyed Hiroshima. The manager laughed in disbelief. A single bomb? It's impossible, he scoffed. Yamaguchi tried to insist. He explained the blinding flash, the searing heat. He described the devastation, the city erased. Still, his words sounded like madness. Then, at 11:02 a.m., the room exploded with light. Another flash lit the sky. This time it was Fat Man, a plutonium bomb, even more powerful than Hiroshima's. It detonated above Nagasaki's Urakami Valley. Yamaguchi was 2 miles from ground zero again. For the second time in 3 days, he witnessed a nuclear fire. The windows of the office shattered inward. Shards of glass cut across desks. The blast wave hurled Yamaguchi to the floor. His bandages ripped open, burns torn anew. But once again he survived. He staggered through the ruins of Nagasaki. Fires raged across the valley. Entire districts burned. The air was thick with smoke and ash. The city's cathedral lay in ruins. Thousands of homes vanished in seconds. Civilians stumbled through the rubble, bleeding and burned. Yamaguchi's co-workers cried out for help. Many died instantly in the blast. Others begged for water as they collapsed. The smell of charred wood mixed with seared flesh. Nagasaki had become a furnace. The mushroom cloud towered above the city. Yamaguchi's heart pounded with disbelief. Once was horror, twice was unthinkable. Yet he had lived through both. He searched desperately for his wife and child. His burns throbbed with pain at every step. After hours, he reached his home. Miraculously, it still stood. His wife greeted him at the door. She too had been spared. Their infant son cried in her arms. Yamaguchi collapsed from exhaustion. He told her it happened again. She held him, trembling. The family survived only because of luck. That morning, she had left their home to find ointment for his burns. She was outside the blast zone when the bomb fell. The child had been with her. They were shielded by sheer chance. If they had stayed indoors, all would be gone. Fate spared them. The family huddled in their home as Nagasaki burned. Black rain fell from the sky. Ash mixed with radioactive fallout. Survivors drank from polluted rivers.
Many would sicken in days.
Radiation sickness spread swiftly. Yamaguchi felt dizzy, his skin blistering worse. His hair began to fall out in clumps. Nausea racked his body. He vomited blood, yet he endured. He refused to surrender to despair. He wrapped his wounds in cloth. He cared for his wife and son. He scavenged food from the wreckage. Each day death loomed close. But somehow he held on. Yamaguchi would later describe it as living in hell. The sky never cleared. Corpses lined the streets. News spread quickly. One man had seen both atomic bombs. Locals called him the double hibakusha. Hibakusha meant explosion-affected person. His survival was viewed as both curse and miracle. Some whispered he was protected by destiny. Others feared he carried death with him. In reality, he was simply scarred, sick, and exhausted, but alive. And that alone was extraordinary. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito's voice was heard. It was the first time the people heard their emperor. He announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. Yamaguchi listened in stunned silence. His world had ended twice in 1 week, but the nightmare of global war was finally finished. He held his family close and silently promised he would live. The war was over, but the struggle for Tsutomu Yamaguchi was not. His body remained covered in burns. He could barely move without pain. His hearing was permanently damaged. Radiation sickness lingered for months. Yet he returned to work at Mitsubishi. Japan had to rebuild, and he joined in. He wanted to provide for his family. His survival felt like a duty. But every day was a reminder of the bombs. His skin bore deep scars. He often collapsed from fatigue. His hair grew thin and brittle. His wounds reopened with infections. Doctors struggled to treat him. Medicine was scarce, and knowledge of radiation poisoning was limited. Many hibakusha suffered in silence. They faced stigma from neighbors. People feared they carried a curse. Marriage was harder for many survivors. Jobs were denied to some. The world had little sympathy. Yamaguchi quietly endured it all. He never bragged about being a double survivor. In fact, he rarely spoke of Hiroshima or Nagasaki. He feared the shame that followed hibakusha. Instead, he tried to live an ordinary life. He and his wife raised their child, returned to drawing blueprints at the shipyard, but his health never fully returned. He lost hearing in his left ear. His body suffered chronic pain. He had stomach problems for years. Later, he developed cataracts from radiation. and eventually cancer. Yet he always carried himself with dignity. He joked about his survival, told friends, "The gods must have kept me alive for something." That something would come decades later. For years, his story remained private. Most people did not know he survived both bombs. Even other hibakusha doubted such a tale. It seemed too incredible, but eventually records confirmed it. In 1957, Japan officially recognized atomic survivors. They received government aid. Yamaguchi applied quietly. He never demanded special recognition. He wanted only to care for his family. Over time, he began to speak out. He gave interviews about his experiences. His voice was calm, steady, and soft. He did not shout or blame. Instead, he urged peace. He warned against nuclear weapons. He told the world of what he had seen. His words carried unusual power, because he was the only man to see both bombs firsthand. Twice he had looked at the mushroom clouds. He became a reluctant witness of history. He described the flash, the fire, the silence afterward. He remembered bodies turning to shadows on walls. He remembered rivers filled with corpses. He remembered his child nearly lost, his wife nearly killed, and the suffering that never ended. His testimony was chilling because it was real. He did not exaggerate. He did not dramatize. He simply said, "This is what happened to me." And the world listened. In 2006, at age 90, he spoke at the United Nations. He urged the abolition of nuclear weapons. His voice was frail but firm, said, "No human should ever suffer what I suffered." The room fell silent. Diplomats looked down at their papers. His words lingered in the air. A survivor of 2 bombs was pleading with them. In 2009, the Japanese government gave him official recognition. He was declared the only person certified to survive both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The news made headlines worldwide. The man who lived through 2 atomic bombs became a global symbol. Journalists traveled to interview him. He spoke from his small home in Nagasaki. He was thin, frail, but still sharp. His story spread across newspapers, television, and documentaries. The world finally honored him, but he remained humble. He said, "I am not special. I am only a witness." His message was always the same. Do not use nuclear weapons again. His family supported his mission. His children respected his resilience. His wife, who had survived with him, remained by his side. Together, they had endured history's greatest horrors. And together, they grew old in peace. On January 4th, 2010, Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away at age 93. His death was reported around the world. Obituaries called him the luckiest and unluckiest man alive. Historians called him a living link to nuclear war. His story entered classrooms and museums. He became a figure of both tragedy and hope. Survivors rarely live long enough to see global recognition. Yamaguchi did. He left behind not bitterness, but a warning. His legacy was simple. Nuclear weapons should never be used again. Today, his name appears in history books. Documentaries feature his testimony. Films and novels retell his survival. He has become more than a survivor. He is a symbol of endurance. He's a voice carried through generations. The man who twice walked through fire. The man who saw humanity's darkest weapon and lived to tell us why it must never happen again. That is Tsutomu Yamaguchi's eternal legacy.
That's it for today's Forgotten Tale. If this story made you raise an eyebrow, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that dusty little bell so you never miss another echo from the past. Drop it in the comments. We're always listening for new echoes. Got a weird bit of history you think we should cover? Until next time, keep your curiosity loud and your history weird.